Infinity Pool is directed by Brandon Cronenberg and stars Alexander Skarsgard, Mia Goth, and Cleopatra Coleman. A wealthy couple enjoys an all-inclusive island vacation, but when they get involved in a fatal accident, the darker sides of both the island's culture and human nature are exposed. I was actually really excited for this movie, not just because it's directed by Brandon Cronenberg, David Cronenberg's son, the legendary film director whose previous film, Crimes of the Future, I wasn't really the biggest fan of, but the less said about that, the better. But still, it wasn't just because of the director that I was excited about this movie. It was because of the cast. Mia Goth was in the movie, who gave two of the best performances last year in X and in Pearl, which she was robbed of an Oscar, and I will not live until I have my revenge! But along with Mia Goth, it also had Alexander Skarsgard, who I've seen in other things before, and I liked him before, but I can't say that I'm the biggest fan of him, but to be fair, he was probably one of the better things about the remake of The Stand. Did you guys see that miniseries? But he was still good in it, and along with all of this and a trailer that really didn't give much away about the movie, and I really was intrigued about what the plot of the film could be just by seeing the trailer, I was actually really anticipating this movie. And thank God it lived up to all of my anticipations. This was a really good movie. Not a movie that I can see everyone getting into, and we'll get into that when we get into that. But for me personally, I really liked this movie. In terms of the performances, everyone does a great job in this movie. Everyone has their own unique brand of what the director specifically wants them to do, and that is go from 0 to 100% intensity in a matter of seconds. And everyone does that in their own unique way that really does show off the talent and different identities of all of these actors. Skarsgård is great in the movie, along with literally every other supporting actor in the film. But let's be honest, whenever Mia Goth is on screen, she steals the movie. Whether she is being completely quiet in the movie or so loud, she is not only chewing the scenery, but making an entire buffet out of it. She is so entertaining to watch. And again, Skarsgård does a fantastic job in the movie. But even though Mia Goth isn't the main character, every single time she was on screen, I was on board. She was brilliant in the movie, just like she was from X and Pearl from last year. And yet still, no Oscar nominations. What? Keep it together, keep it together, keep it together. And along with the performances, everything else from the tone to the writing to the directing to the cinematography just sort of culminates together to create this one big plus known as the story. Without giving too much away, because I really do think this movie benefits from going in relatively blind, I really thought the story in this film was so interesting. It's a really interesting examination of just immortality in general. What you can do when you can get away with murder and nothing happens to you. There are no consequences. What would happen to people who already have the high life when every single consequence that they worried about, they can just get rid of and do whatever they want? That's what this movie explores, and I really loved it. And everything from the cinematography that should be gorgeous when it's examining all of these landscape spots, but everything is so dark and dark blues that it just creates this uneasy atmosphere. These extreme close-up shots of these conversations that really do make you feel just as uncomfortable as I'm sure the characters are in the moment. And the sound design and music that always keep you just on edge and uneasy. It creates this perfect unnatural and unsettling tone throughout the film that I adored. And this movie goes so insane throughout the entirety of the film that when it goes to just a shred of normality by the end of the film, it feels almost way more uneasy than anything you've seen in the previous, hour and 40 minutes? The ending of this film is so calm yet so unsettling. I know for sure it is going to be analyzed probably for years, because this movie as a whole does rely a lot on analysis. It is a very art house movie, and that is where I do think a lot of people won't really like it. There are large chunks of the movie that do come off a bit too pretentious, whether it's from the writing, the directing, or the cinematography. And while I was fine with all that for the most part, I know there were a lot of people in my theater who were not okay with it. And even for me personally, from an analysis standpoint, I could see myself going back to this movie, but for an enjoyment standpoint, I can't really see myself watching this film again. And apart from just the pretentious value of the film, there are also two reasons to go along with that point. And one of those issues is the characters, because yeah, even though the actors do a fantastic job, I didn't care a single bit about any character in this film. Yeah, they have some background to them, but honestly, it's very surface level, and any personality that they have is just sort of reliant on the actors. And yeah, the actors have a lot of personality to them, but nothing that really adds to the overall character that they're portraying. And also the other minor issue that I have is the infinity pool itself. I know it's not called an infinity pool in the movie, but just for simplicity's sake and for the sake of spoiler free and that I don't want to give away what it actually does, I'm going to keep calling it an infinity pool. We know what it does in the film, but we don't know how it does it. And while yeah, that does put us in the same uneasy space as our main character, and in the film, anytime that a character tries to theorize what the infinity pool does and how it does it, they're immediately interrupted, and that is a smart and clever way for the filmmakers to say, it doesn't make any sense, just go along with it. I would have liked to have seen and understand a bit more of how it works. And to be fair to the film, even though that's like a tiny issue in my head, overall, that's a huge compliment, because that just makes me want to analyze this film more, because it's just in my head. How does the infinity pool work? And in that questioning, it does put me more into the head of the main leads. So is it really a complaint? I don't know. Is it just a random thought in my head that I needed to get out? Yeah, that seemed more like it. Yeah, who am I kidding with that one complaint? I really enjoyed this movie. The characters aren't the best, the MacGuffin of the movie is mysteriously and maybe intentionally vague, and the film is a bit overly pretentious at times, but the acting is fantastic, the story and themes are interesting, and the film has a great sense of tone and atmosphere that instantly puts the audience on edge. I know a good amount of people will probably disagree, but for me, I do feel like I got my money's worth. I'm going to give the Infinity Pool a B+. Well guys, thank you so much for watching, and let me know in the comments down below, what is your favorite psychological horror film? For me, there is no contest. This is one of the greatest films ever made. It is one of the greatest horror films ever made, and in my opinion, it is the best horror film ever made. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are the best, and don't forget to click subscribe and click the bell icon down below to stay up to date on all things movie, all things TV, all things nerd.